What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back again for our transfer targets. Now we're going to be focusing on right backs. Emerson Royal looks to be going out the door, which means that Pedro Porro is the only natural right back, or should be the only natural right back currently in the squad that has a future here. So we've got 5 different right backs that we're going to have a look at today. And starting off with Mohamed Simikan of RB Leipzig. Spurs have just been recently linked to him. 35 million market value, 24 years of age, and a versatile player that can play right back and centre back as well.
Yeah, in fact, he's actually played more appearances at centre back this season for Leipzig than right back, but he does have about 15 appearances at right back as well, so clearly very adept at playing that role. Obviously plays in a very offensive, high energy Leipzig side, so he knows what it means to be brave on the ball and to move forward on the ball. When he plays a right back, he can be quite offensive, very strong, very quick. This is how he profiles for a inverted fullback on FBref here, and as you can see, extremely effectively. Apart from the only thing he ranks low on is carries into the final third, but as you can see here, defensively, very high percentage of aerials, very good in the air, very good at tackling dribblers as well, very good with his availability, and also doesn't lose possession much, and his passing is really, really solid as well in the upper echelons of all the percentiles with his passing, passes forward into the final third as well, and his pass completion. So I think he actually profiles really well. The only thing is he's coming to a stage of his career at 24, Leipzig going well, him going well. I don't know if he comes to Tottenham right now. I think he might look at bigger things, to be honest, as whether we'll be able to get him. But he's definitely one I would look at if Spurs are able to get him.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's a player that's kind of been growing over the past 2 or 3 years. I think he joined Leipzig. I think he just finished his 3rd season at Leipzig, I think it was, and he's been a mainstay in that team for the past 3 years. I think this year was probably the first year where he's played predominantly at right back, at centre back, where the other 2 years he has been predominantly at right back, I believe. A player which is of high quality, like I said, growing year on year, and if we can get him, it'll be a real coup for the club. And it's been interesting that we have been linked with him in the past few days, so maybe there is something in it.
Only thing is, if we're looking at a backup right back, he's probably going to be the most expensive one on the list, I would say.
Yeah, most likely. What was his market value again?
His market value was 35.
Yeah, so you're probably looking at like 45 or something at minimum.
Yeah.
Next up, we're going to look at Vanderson of Monaco, 22 years of age, 20 million market value. And he's a player that I've been impressed with over the past year or so. I think when you're looking at his underlying metrics, I don't think it's been as strong as they have been in previous years. But I do think that he's got the attributes to succeed in this system.
Yeah, he's probably the one I know least about. I haven't really seen too much of Vanderson, but looking at his chart, which is profiling him as an inverted fullback, he's obviously decent defensively, makes a lot of tackles, interceptions, but in terms of he's not great in the air, he's not great in one-on-one situations. His passing and carrying, not the best. He does make himself available, so he does get on the ball quite a bit, which is important in this system to make sure you're getting in positions to receive it, like Porro and Udogie do. But maybe it's just a case he's still 22, still quite young, and maybe he's a good right back, and maybe inverted is not the best role for him. I'm not quite sure, but I haven't seen too much of him, to be honest.
I believe that he's had a little bit of a dip this season, whereas the season before he was having a stellar season, week in, week out, playing at a really good level. But for one reason or another, I'm not sure if it's because of an injury or something along those lines, but he hasn't been as strong this year as he was last year.
I see, so maybe that's the cause of it.
Next up, we are going to look at Kyle Walker-Peters. Everyone remembers him, 27 years of age. I actually can't quite believe Kyle Walker-Peters is 27. 20 million market value, plays for Southampton, can play right back, can play left back. When we did sell him, he did have a couple of good performances behind his back. I remember at one of the games in his last season, he got like 2 or 3 assists in one game, didn't he? Do you remember who
against? There was one on the last day of the season against Leicester, I remember. We won 5-4. And there was also a game, I think it was against Bournemouth at home. He got 2 or 3 assists. But he was so much smaller back then, I felt like, in terms of not in terms of height, but physically. You look at him now, he's a completely new player, I feel.
Yeah. I mean, he has reinvented himself at Southampton. He never really got a serious look in at Tottenham. And when you're looking at him now, I think he got into the Championship Team of the Year at left back when he's a predominant right back. And he's been one of the stars of the show in the Championship this season.
Yeah, and I think think even in the Premier League for Southampton, I thought he was actually pretty good. I thought he was really unlucky not to have earned himself a Premier League move when they got relegated. But now they're going. Oh, they're not going back in the Premier League. Do they lose in the playoffs?
They lost to. No, they're in the final.
They're in the final. So I guess we'll see whether he's going to be in the Premier League yet or not. I'll go against Leeds. So on Sunday the final is. But I've been really impressed with him this season, and I've always thought he's quite a good on the ball fullback. The problem is, I do feel like defensively he's got some issues. I do feel like he's quite easily got out, despite he's got good pace. I feel like physically, although he's a lot stronger than he used to be, he still can be found wanting. Look at his metrics. You can see defensively, probably not the best, although percentage of dribblers tackled, 78%, which means in those one-on-one situations against some running at him is actually not bad. Aerially, we know he's not the best, and that the stats show that. But he actually profiles really strongly on the ball, which is what we know he's capable of. Obviously, the lowest one there is dispossessed. He does maybe lose the ball quite a bit too often. But in terms of his ability on the ball to progress it, carries into the final third, his amount of touches he gets, the positions he gets himself in, really, really encouraging. And I guess it is the Championship, so you have to take that into account. But still, in terms of profile, the fact that he can play right back, left back, maybe wouldn't command a first team spot as well, wouldn't kick his dummy out the pram. I mean, if we're looking to save a bit of money, if we want to spend a bit of money elsewhere, there could be worse deals than getting a cheap deal for Kyle Walker-Peters.
I'm trying to look at it from his perspective. He left Tottenham to get first-team football. He got first-team football at Southampton. Why would he come back here to play backup again?
Because he's a Tottenham boy. And I think he would love anything more than to be involved in the first team at Spurs. And being backup or being involved at Tottenham, being part of the first team where he's going to get more minutes, unless he's getting, I mean, where's he going to start? That's the question. I don't know where he goes to.
It's not even like if Southampton get into the Premier League and they do beat Leeds on the last day in the Championship final in the playoffs, then why not stay there if you're going to start week in, week out?
Why would you stay at Southampton when you might earn more money at Tottenham? That's your boyhood club, and you're one injury away from being a regular starter.
First of all, you want to play week in, week out to keep furthering your career.
He'll play in Europe.
He'll play in Europe, fair enough, but it's still I wouldn't trust him to back up to Pedro Porro or Destiny Udogie in terms of, I think the quality drop off is way too big.
Potentially, if he's covering for Europa League, I don't think it's too big for Europa League. Obviously, if we're looking to challenge for big things in the league, look, hopefully he doesn't have to play too many games. But in terms of a rotation player, I mean, I think he is an adequate Premier League player. I don't think he's a massive liability. I don't think it's a massive drop off. But when it comes to maybe physically, I think quality wise, when it comes to, I think Porro has a lot more quality, and Udogie has a lot more physicality. But I don't like when I'm looking at Walker-Peters compared to an Emerson. I don't think there's going to be as big a drop off in terms of his on the ball ability than when Emerson comes in. I don't see Walker-Peters coming in and struggling as much as Emerson did.
I agree, it's an upgrade on Emerson, but I still think we need better than that. When you're looking at the teams that we're trying to compete against, your Man Cities, your Liverpools, your Arsenals, these kind of teams, they've all got better backups than a Kyle Walker-Peters in those kind of positions, and they wouldn't even think of bringing in a player like Kyle Walker-Peters to the team.
I'm just saying, in a perfect world, yes, I want to spend 50 million on every player we sign, and I want a really deep squad. But if we have to make some sacrifices and we need to maybe spend less on certain players to allow ourselves to spend more on certain positions, I think if it means spending less on a Kyle Walker-Peters so we can go splash out on a winger, I mean, they're the worst things in the world.
Let's just hope it doesn't come down to that. But look, I have been impressed with Kyle Walker-Peters since going to the Championship, but I still feel like we need better than that.
Also homegrown count. So
yeah, that's the thing. I think if we do tick the box on him, well, that is it. It's ticking boxes. Next up, let's go and look at Lacharal Gritrida of Feyenoord, 32 million market value, 23 years of age. This is a player that has just come on leaps and bounds over the past year or so. He's been linked to a lot of big clubs. I think Liverpool, under Arne Slot now, will be massively linked to him. A player that can play right back, a player that can play centre back as well. I think even CDM, I think he's a player of the top calibre.
Yeah, really versatile, and he's really been fantastic under Arne Slot last season. And He's definitely one who's getting a lot of interest as a really good young player. How he profiles as well, really impressively. Obviously, if you look at his chart, tackles, interceptions, doesn't perform too many. Obviously, he has played at centre-back quite a bit, so obviously when you play in that role, you're probably getting involved a bit less in the defensive actions, but he's obviously played right-back a lot. His passing, really strong numbers. Aerially, really strong as well. Dribble has tackled really strong. The pie chart looks really, really good as well. So I think Gertrude, when it comes to his versatility, quality, I think he's a real one of interest, I think. Tottenham.
He was at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as well, wasn't he? Watching the North London derby with Santiago Jimenez. So maybe there's more into it than we know, but we obviously don't know at this stage. We aren't heavily linked with him or anything like that. What do you reckon? I go
to Liverpool probably.
No, but what do you reckon if I get on FaceTime to him, pretend I'm Arnie's slot?
Yeah, maybe you can convince him. I think, maybe. Definitely.
You reckon?
100%. I think you wouldn't know the difference.
And last but not least, we're going to talk about Divine Wrench of Ajax, 21 years of age, 8 million market value, has been doing really well in the Eredivisie over the past year. And he's a player that Football Manager always bring up to be one of the best right-backs in the world.
Yeah, and playing with Ajax, obviously, you're going to be learning possession-based football from a very young age. Ajax always develop very highly technical players, and Divine Wrench is very, very similar. Again, his chart profiles really strongly, performs in the higher echelons of all the percentiles for his passing, his carries. Defence, but maybe still needs to improve it. I mean, it's not the worst, above average in the aerials and tackles, interceptions, and really strong when it comes to dribblers tackled. So he's quite good against dribbling wingers, and he definitely gets on the ball a lot. As you can see, he takes a lot of touches, but obviously playing for Ajax, it's no surprise. As a young fullback, I think...
You say Ajax has struggled this season, though.
They have struggled, but they still play the same way, don't they? Well, I assume anyway. To be honest, I don't watch them regularly this season, but knowing Ajax, they always play one way. They have a philosophy throughout the whole club, so I assume that they play possession-based football throughout. But look, as a young fullback who's technically strong, he might be a good answer, and maybe you can get him for a decent price. Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking, especially at the age he is now as well. You'd probably think he could come here and he'll use it as like maybe a platform to build on, and he'll probably fancy his chances, to get game time here. And also he won't be too disheartened if he's used as maybe a backup to Pedro Porro for now, and used as a long-term project kind of thing.
Yeah, I think so.
So I think he could be a really good option for us. In terms of those 5 players, who's your number one pick?
I think quality-wise, probably Simican's the number one, but I think he's going to be the most expensive, and I don't think it's really necessary to splash out big on a right-back, to be honest. So I think Gertrude will probably be my number one, seeing as he's really versatile. He'd also be expensive, though. Yeah, but at least he can play midfield. He can fill in there.
And centre-back
as well, and right-back. So maybe in games where if he can fill in there, so he'll get those extra minutes. So justify the big outlay.
The thing is, though, we're at centre-back with Romero and Dragusin both in that position. We don't really need another centre-back. So I think the midfield would probably be where he'd fill in the most.
You never know. But yeah, you're probably right, but you never know what will happen with injuries. You saw what happened last season. But yeah, I think you're right about that. I think he'll be my number one. Obviously, Simican would be there if we can get him. And probably Carl Walker-Peters, to be honest, just because, in my opinion, if we can save a bit of money, get him in, he'll be an adequate backup for a couple years. Hopefully be cheap, homegrown, and hopefully he can do a job as a backup at right back or left back. So I think probably him.
I agree with what you're saying in terms of Simican and Gertrude. I think they are, in terms of quality, the best on this list. But I do kind of feel like both of them are just going to cost a bit too much, especially with the amount of business that we have to do. I do like the idea of Divine Wrench. He's played 2 games at left back, 10 games at centre back, 15 games at right back this season alone. So with the versatility that he can play anywhere across the back line, with the kind of what he's showing now, the kind of levels that he can get to, the age he is, I feel like he would be a really good option for us.
Yeah,
So he's the one I'm actually quite excited about. I do feel like Simican and Gitrud are a bit of a pipe dream at this stage. So I'd go for Divan Wrench. That's my personal opinion. Let me know yours in the comments section below. That is our 5 options we are looking at for right back. If there is anyone that we've missed out, let us know in the comments section below. But thank you everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.